Good morning, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about filming and streaming for your podcast and YouTube channels. And I'm going to talk about a distinction between a couple of different cameras of what I use, from a webcam to a DSLR to a mirrorless camera. I have a couple different options to talk about here on Rise and Grind in the Morning. And well, let's get started. Well, good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? So today is a kind of like an important episode. I tried to record this last night, and for whatever reason, it didn't connect when the original recording. So when I first got into podcasting, I thought it was just going to be like a radio show and just really focusing on here. Let me adjust the camera a little bit because it's just kind of wobbly. All right, there we go. So anyhow, when I first got into podcasting about 6, 7 years ago, the original idea was to like be a YouTuber, to be an influencer, to be a speaker, and all that great stuff. And I knew that there were a lot of things that I didn't have. I didn't have equipment, which I thought I needed to build a studio. I wanted to be able to have something that was going to be, great for me to use. And so, starting along this journey, getting my voice down, getting how to make a show, all that great stuff that I've talked about on previous episodes, it all progressively came together. But then in these last year and a half, I really started getting into video, and the different equipments, or cameras, I should say, for streaming really started to matter. I wanted to know exactly what could I really use per se. And that's the thing is, it's definitely something that I had to think about, and because this stuff will cost a lot of money in the long run. So first and foremost, the best pieces of equipment to really start out with is your phone. So many of these phones, whether you have a Samsung Galaxy, an iPhone, Windows phone, if people have those. I mean, a Motorola. Doesn't matter really what brand you have. They all have really good equipment. Here, let me actually adjust the camera just a little bit more. There we go. Um, so I wanted to being the kind of techie person that I am and being interested in what I like to do, I wanted to put the best dollar into the best piece of equipment that I possibly could get into. And, but I didn't have a big budget. I didn't want to spend too much of my own money for this. I wanted my service as a podcaster and as a content creator. I wanted my work for that to fund my equipment. So I knew that I needed to, number one, build an audience, build a following, build content, learn about how content is made. And these were the steps that I needed to take. And also the platforms. And luckily enough, I've been able to find platforms exactly that truly, really made a difference, so to speak. And those platforms, at one time definitely paid me just to be on there or just record. And some of them were contests, some were like, "Hey, you became a verified user." So whatever. So I knew the game plan that I wanted to commit to. And with that being said, I wanted to make sure that when I did build up the money, I was going to be able to buy at the time the best piece of equipment that I wouldn't have to reinvest into. So the very first camera that I got into was the Logitech 922C. It's a 1080p webcam. However, which you connect your camera, the streaming platform or server, it may only be able to film 720, and the Logitech 720 at 30 frames per second was just fine enough. And in some of my other YouTube videos, I did exactly that. So I just was like, okay, I'm going to film with the webcam because I just don't know which camera to buy. So eventually, I moved on, and I am a big, equipment guy. So I wanted to make sure that I could invest maybe even a used piece of equipment because cameras are not, cameras are definitely one of those things like if you shop right, you can buy them used and you don't have to pay sometimes $1,000 or $800 because that's what I thought I had to do. I was like, well, maybe I should get into the Canon T5 or T6 at the time, and what should I do? Or even a Canon M50, because Canon to me, I'd seen all the famous podcasters and vloggers like Think Media, um, and so many others, so many more. So when I was looking at hear them talk, it was like, oh, this sounds great. But there was one catch. It was I invested into the Mac brand, and I invested into a MacBook. I invested into a MacBook Mini later on. So the things that needed to go into Mac may have not necessarily been compatible with the Canon brand. And the reason why is because Canon didn't necessarily um, build for Mac in mind. And I think that was one of their shortcomings. So, and no, this is not necessarily a bad thing, but it was like a room for growth for Canon to figure out. And then they figured out, well, we have content creators who are filming and recording and editing through Mac and not PC. And so to make that story short, it's like that's why I used a webcam first. So I used the Logitech, 922C. And it's for 69 bucks. They still sell it, I believe. And you can find them probably used for maybe 20, 30 bucks. And I found mine, I believe at Best Buy, and then I've seen them on Facebook Marketplace and other auction style platforms. So when I started looking at all of this, I wanted to know exactly what was the best bang for my buck, and moving up from a webcam. And so then I bought myself after the webcam, I bought what's called the Canon M50. Now, this is a mirrorless camera. And let me give you the props about the Canon M50. It's highly regarded and highly talked about often. And what this camera has is the ability to take amazing scenery, pictures, videos. For a creative content user, the Canon M50 is really a great buy, and it's I think around 599 to 700, maybe on up. And there is different versions. There's the basic one that I have. There's the Mark II, the Mark III. They have like every version they have up. You have different qualities of which you can film, but the body is the same, but the guts are different. And so this is the beautiful thing about this thing is that it is a touch screen. And for a content creator, you want to be able to, not just take pictures, but you want to be able to go through your menus. And I think that's something that needs to be talked about is the menu. So let me see if I can show, you know, you can as you can see, I'll show you with on the camera, you can see there's, if I want to, I can probably pick on one in whatever category that is and select it and pick on it. And it makes it really, really easy. But you can also navigate, or where it is it? Yeah, you can navigate through. There's a dial and menu and easy to delete pictures. There's all kinds of fancy, nice buttons, so to speak. And there's also recording options on top. So one button over here, that's your what does that call it? F stop. Just taking pictures or holding it down to audio record. And then that little red dot, that's for your video recording. And you also see a dial on top, and you can switch it to the style in which you're filming or taking pictures. So it's a great overall, great camera. But one thing that you will have to know, there is a big difference in your equipment because like I said, when I first got into my idea to want to start filming, I purchased a EOS Rebel T5. Now, this camera I bought for about $200 at the time, and it was retailing, I believe, at 700. So a photographer said, "Hey, you know what? I've gone into mirrorless cameras." I didn't know the difference between a mirrorless and a DSLR. So the Canon Rebels, a lot of them are DSLR, and versus the Canon M50, this camera is completely mirrorless. And so, what is the big difference? This has mirrors inside, so the level of quality is based on the style of mirror and the aperture opening for the camera. This, the mirrorless, which is very important when you're streaming, um, captures the image really fast and has a bigger aperture opening. It has a bigger computer chip that reads. And to my understanding, this is what I kind of learned. I was like, okay, well, how does this really matter in the long run? Camera's a camera, in my opinion. No, it's not necessarily. So, but I didn't want to get so caught up in the technology because I was like, once you buy one of these cameras, you're going to want to buy lenses, the right kind of lens. So, um, and they have different style of mounts. So, a traditional lens that can go on the Canon Rebel is much bigger than the Canon M50. So you had to buy a lens adapter, and mine happens to be the Viltrex. You can find it readily on Amazon, and it fits the EF to EOS mounts, which is great. Or what is it? EF to EOS or EOS to EF. Anyhow, the point is that it needed something to adapt to the different lenses because I have about probably 6 lenses for my DSLR, which is my Canon T5. I had different lenses, and I don't want to get too sidetracked, but the point is that I needed something. I don't want to buy because these lenses can cost anywhere from 300 to 2,000, and even just for a small lens, and the specific lens type was going to matter. So moving forward, I bought a Canon M50 and I thought this is just going to be easy, ready, plug and play. However, I didn't know that I needed a streaming platform to stream through to the platforms like YouTube, Twitch, Twitter Spaces, Facebook, or wherever you really want to go for your streaming platform. So I didn't understand all that at the time. And there was a lot because there's things like OBS, OBS Studio, Streamlabs, StreamYard. Um, the platform I'm recording to now or from is Restream. And I needed to be able to diversify myself. So when I started looking, I was like, okay, I got the camera. Now I got to get the software in. Do I need to upgrade my equipment? So it was like a headache. And I at first the first video streaming server platform that I used was StreamYard, which was great, but it was pricey. I wasn't making a whole lot of money. I was trying to save my money to really fine tune and create my studio, which I'm recording now. And it's a work in progress. Like right now, you'll see my computer and you'll see stuffs, stacked on the side. And sure, I should clean it up. But look, I'm a working man and space is everything. So I just made as I increased, you know, um, my ability increased, my equipment, and then the imagery will everything will come into play. And then also lighting, and that's another story in itself. So anyway, so I had difficulties connecting the Canon M50 to do what I needed to do because it had some issues. And the one thing that I would say that knocked the Canon M50 off of my attention, that really it just irritated me was that it stops recording at 30 minutes. It doesn't continuously record and play like a lot of other competitors, which I will talk. And I use the Sony right now. I'm recording to you using the Sony ZVE10, and that camera just came out within the last year. So there's all these different competitors to use for your streaming. And I, after probably about 6 to 8 months, I spent time reviewing each camera body. And there's some places where you can actually rent these cameras before you buy, which is, I think, is a great option. But you are going to have to spend time learning how to use. And I spent probably 40 hours learning how to use the camera itself, how to connect it, and the camera that I'm recording to you now, the Sony ZV-E10, was the most user friendly and had the accessibility to be able to change lenses. And for the price, I really just could not beat it at the time. So the Canon M50, though it had a touchscreen, it had, I had a lot of lenses that get interchange. Um, I needed something simpler and I wanted to keep it simple and concise for a good reason. Um, and that's because I don't want to have to fidget with everything and mess with too many settings. Nobody does. When you get into streaming, you don't want to mess with a whole lot of settings. You just want to plug in and go, and then go back and edit your stream for the things that you don't want in there. So going forward, it was a lot of tough choices, and I was so disappointed because I spent, a good sum of money on my Canon M50, and I use this thing still when I'm outside. So yeah, it didn't get tossed, and it just doesn't sit on the shelf. It actually, I take it to film my family and my little videos. And I take the SD card and I plug it into my hub and I go in and I edit in the software and I make videos for my family. I haven't really played with it for restream purposes or even TikToks, which you can do. So um, if you have a PC, the Canon M50 is really extremely friendly to you because it has setup drives automatically easy to plug and play. And that's the thing. You're going to have the downloads and go to the Canon's website and pick the drive for the camera. And what is a driver? A driver is software that connects to your computer, to your streaming platform. It connects it and just makes it flow. With Sony, I didn't have to do that. But if you're more on the technical side, there are other Canon and Nikon cameras that you can use, or even was it Fuji, I believe, and Pentax. There's all kinds of choices you can really pick, and I highly suggest look at all of them. Even maybe rent one and see how it is for you. But this thing it's got some weight to it. That's definitely for sure. So if you're going to be vlogging and filming, you're going to need a vlogging, I guess, kit, something where you can handhold, keep the image steady. And that was one of the things that I had a problem with. So with that being said, I had to figure out what was going to be the best option for me. I was disappointed. I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? And then I'd seen the Sony cameras and they ranged anywhere from 600 to 2000 from what I saw. And the first one that I saw was the Sony ZV-1, which was it's great for streaming, but the lens is not interchangeable. It's fixed. So Sony took an account for that, and a year later they released this Sony ZV-E10. The price point is a little bit more, I will say. The Sony brand does not have necessarily a touchscreen on these streaming cameras. It is a dial. So, but that's not to worry. The biggest piece of information that I could tell you is that the options plug and play. So when you install the Sony camera on your computer, yes, there's all kinds of drives. There's all kinds of things that it's Mac friendly. That was the thing. Is it Mac user friendly? And matter of fact, since I'm filming on it, I'll just show you the box. So this is basically what it looks like. It comes with a little filter mic that you just easily attach. The lens is interchangeable. You can see the touchscreen on the side and also the small lens, which if you're just recording from your desk and at home or maybe close proximity, this thing can be a very, very useful thing. And I just really, at first, it kind of frustrated me, but when I watched a few other content creators like Think Media and others, it really started making a difference to me because I was like, oh, it's just plug in. So the cord that I needed was a USB to USB-C connection. Now you can connect a mini HDMI to your computer, which it will produce great extreme quality and it increases the camera's ability when you do that. But I just wanted something simple for my vlogging and podcasting live here on YouTube. I don't need the greatest resolution because I feel this resolution is fine. So that was the other thing that really set Sony apart from Canon, because here was the other thing that I had to take in consideration with Canon. So I had to purchase um, to connect my Canon to the StreamYard Cam Link or a capture card. Now, the Elgato Cam Link 4K, this one's probably about 2 years old. And what I didn't know was I needed a clean HDMI feed. That means where it's not going to show all my settings, because once I would connect on StreamYard, my Canon M50, it would show on my screen live stream like all these settings, aperture, the lighting, it would show all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't want that on. Just show me, not the tech settings, So that was something that I figured out. And it was because that the way that Elgato you know was designed, it was designed in a way to set up for, I think, more advanced streamers than I was at the time, and I just didn't. So it produces, as a matter of fact, I'll even show you. This little thing connects through a USB to HDMI. So if you had an HDMI to mini HDMI cable, works great. Shows great filming quality, and no shade against that. But it was hard. Sometimes it would connect, it wouldn't. I don't know if I was doing it wrong. I just got frustrated and I just kind of wanted, I was like, I'm just going to have to put my filming on hold and just film on my webcam. So the Elgato Cam Link, the capture card, they have a couple different ones that you can install, but it was just something more above my head and I didn't have a whole lot of time, I felt, to really waste on trying to figure it out. And that's the thing is, if you're gonna start streaming, you're gonna have to start investing time in the background, you know, how to use all this stuff. And that was the thing, is like, I just wanted to record with my friends. My friends, like when I was doing Blank Canvas, my co-host, Mr. No Show, he was just using a webcam. So why was I making it so complicated? So I was like, yes, I want the good equipment. No, I don't want to have to fidget with it. I want to figure out whether I'm gonna make good content with it or not. And I didn't want it to shut down with me in 30 minutes. And at the time, I was recording an hour to 2 hours sometimes. Now it's a little different. So, like I said, now I'm recording on my Canon ZV-E10. I don't have multiple cameras connected. And even if I did, I don't have the supportive equipment. It's going to need multi cameras. That's the thing, is what I can tell you. You don't need multi cameras to stream. You can just record from your phone and it's just fine. And sometimes the iPhone, the brand new ones, they have excellent filming quality. They got 4K, they got 4K at 60 frames per second, 30 frames per second. And now in the future, they're talking about 8K. So it's increasing even the more filming ability. And I just happened to go see the Red Hot Chili Peppers in concert in Santa Clara at Levi Stadium. And they were filming on 8K quality cameras to show the stage and the performers on stage. So that was like, it really caught my attention. I knew it was 8K because the amount of resolution in movement was so unreal. So that's coming to us in the near future, and especially in the US, but in Japan, they probably already have it. In other, Asiatic countries, they already have that stuff, and we are a little behind, but that's okay. So when you're streaming, you want to make sure that it's easy connect. And like I said, I just wanted a USB to USB-C connect, which charges my iPad and other things, to a Lightning Thunderbolt cable if you want, whatever. You really can pick. So the Sony ZV-E10 compared to um, the M50, in my opinion, was easier to use and friendlier to me, and I didn't have to figure out so much tech. So if you're asking my opinion, if you want something universal and you're a PC user, um, and you only film at 30 minutes, or you like to be able to take, little breaks, and you want a touch screen, this camera's a great buy. If you find them used and that are clean, not messed up, no sand damage, no scratches, no nothing, Canon 50 might be your best bet. But if you want something that is easy to plug and play, you're a Mac user, um, and you can be able to, you still can take great pictures with this thing. That's the beauty of it. You still can. And Sony lenses are probably a little more than the Canon lenses, but you have different brands you can buy. And also, I did buy the vlogger kit when I got my ZV E10. um, you can buy this tripod and it comes with the remote within the tripod. It's small. So if you're just recording like from here, it's go up and down, adjust mode, taking pictures. It's a great piece of equipment, but I would not buy this brand new. I would buy this if you can find it used, because did see in different marketplaces this was going used, and I spent maybe $100 on this, maybe less. I'm not really sure, but I've seen him as low as like $30. People just like, "Hey, I don't need it. I don't use it. No big deal." So, that's the other thing is when you're buying camera equipment, there are people are reaching hard times right now. Let's not deny people are lost their jobs and they will let go some of this equipment because they've been advertising for so long. So they will let this equipment go for cheap or cheaper than regular retail. And cameras are definitely something that retain their value depending on their condition. So, what are the takeaways and the highlights of this episode? Number one, usability, connectability, and also the brand of style of PC or Mac equipment, iOS that you're using. Look at those things and look at the drives, look at the software that you're going to have to connect to, and then, last but not least, the camera itself using for you. I easily understand menus. That was definitely something that I wanted to really, really look at and make sure that I knew what I was going to do and make a difference in my recording. So, right now, no one's watching me. No, it's to me, it's early in the morning or it's just morning. It's 8 a.m. And it's definitely one of those things where I just wanted to come on here, re-record this, be in a good flow, and give you my opinion. So, which is better, the Canon, you know, M50 or the Sony ZV-E10? I definitely give more of a favor to the Sony ZV-E10 for connectability, film quality, easy to use menus, light use, easy to connect to. Also, a tripod. That's another thing. If you're recording from your desk, you need something, a mount, a desk mount, and I'll talk about that in a later episode about that. But also, um, you can buy. There are accessories you can buy. You can definitely buy, um, say, like a tripod that I'm using right now. So, matter of fact, this one I bought at Best Buy for about $80 or maybe $50. I'm not really sure, but that thing came with also a light. So lighting is, when you're out and about, it's great. You might need this thing, and this thing does get pretty bright. And it also came with a lapel wired mic. I'll have to look up the price point and put it in the description, but it was definitely easy to use. And there are so many different desk mounts and selfie sticks, like Joby, the brand. I do have a Joby tripod, that it's flexible. It can, do we even have, oh, matter of fact, it's right behind me. um, just to talk about the accessories, just for a short period of time, the Joby makes different lengths and widths and what they can handle. And this thing it can you can manipulate it however you want. It's easily extendable, to hold your phone. This can hold any of my DSLR or mirrorless cameras. It can set on my desk. You can put this, like I've seen people try to film from a fence, a stationary position, or wherever, and take it readily ease. So it's very flexible, and there are different versions of the Joby. So you can buy this online, Amazon, Best Buy. And I will be setting up my Amazon seller, so I'll be listing my equipment where I've purchased it and my reviews on it, and you can do that. So, anyhow, but that's pretty much it. And oh yeah, I was gonna say, um, the microphone for the cameras. You can use this universally with Canon or Sony or any. All it is, it's just a plug in. It plugs in your camera. This is great because in proximity, it picks up a lot of noise. So, Rode sells this particular version. I'll have to put the description of this in the notes or the description of the show. Rode, I seen it on Amazon for what, $39, and they have bigger ones and more clarity ones for over 100. And there's other competitor brands you can look into, so you can do that. Anyhow, that's all the time that I have for Rise and Grind about the equipment. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and like, share this with your friends, and let me know what you think of the show. I definitely am looking forward to your takes and your opinions. Well, we'll see you all next time on Rise and Grind come Monday morning, which is tomorrow. And I'll be talking about that show, I believe, later on, hopefully in my social media. So we'll see y'all next time, guys. You take care.